Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Brandler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
It's 7 o'clock on the dot.
Well, it's actually 7:01.
When we started,
Travis Connor, what up, John Patrick? Good to see you.
When we started, 7 o'clock on the dot. No more bitching. Everybody could just pipe down.
Hey, we got Dilly in the house. Dilly is a real cool dog. I don't know if you guys, if anybody out there knows about that book. We should promote that on the page, man. It's a really cool story, and nice to have you here, Penny. I'll get you up to speed. Do droids keep time? Somebody wants to know, Chris. My droid's always on time, homie. Always.
Oh, man. Well, glad to have everybody here tonight. We'll see what the turnout ends up being. But as everyone knows who is here right now, it is time for a fan-led Wednesday. We'll certainly talk about a couple other things until we get into that.
What up, Trevor?
As we were kind of signing in and getting ready, and I'm like, all right, dude, you ready? It's 7 o'clock, ready to roll, right on time. I said it out loud, and Chris has said it before. Like, we don't have to do anything. We just show up on Wednesday.
Nope.
This is like the equivalent. We're like the substitute teachers on Wednesday night. That's what it is.
We're wheeling in that giant TV on the thing, on the casters, wheeling it in, putting in the shitty video and push and play for the audience.
Yeah, you just walk in, you watch dodgeball or so. I don't know. What do you watch? I mean, you just put anything on.
Pretty much anything.
It's funny, dude. I taught for 8 years. Taking a day off as a full-time teacher was worse than just being there, because you're so worried about getting everything ready for that sub so they don't get absolutely destroyed in your classroom by, again, I taught 7th graders, so you can imagine it could be a nightmare quick.
Oh my God. 7th grade is rough.
It's rough. It can be rough. But yeah, tonight we're just the subs. We don't know what we're going to do. There's no real plan. Could go off the rails easily, could go sideways
a little bit.
But no, we're back. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, Chris, because I think we did that earlier in the week. But obviously, there between then and now, 4 more Michigan State players suspended from this, this incident in the tunnel, and the investigation is still ongoing. So I think, kind of all the stuff we said on Monday still applies. I mean, nothing crazy has changed. I think we both said it's not even close to over. I'm fine with what happened so far. There's going to be more. I think at the time when we were talking, actually, the ABC or ESPN video hadn't come out yet. Or maybe just did while we were on.
It actually did. Yeah, it did the day that we were on, or just before we came on, because I remember referencing, waiting for that to come out, and you had notified me.
That's right. You hadn't seen it yet, but I had saw that it was out there, but I don't know if I had even seen it yet. But anyway, point being, it's still not done. And from the sounds of it, these Michigan State players are going to be suspended until it's completely shut. Whatever you want to call it. So all the things are finished. They're going to be watching from their couch. And I just, like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time on it today. But now that, and Fletch Lives Daily right there says that video wasn't that great. The video was fine. It was just that what happened took place down the tunnel a ways. It was just far away. But you saw number 4, Jacoby Windman, put his helmet back on, get into the mix with Jamon Green. You saw Kari Crump. Yeah, because we talked about Kari Crump. So nothing super new has happened except for the suspensions have now come out. I guess just, if you want to give a thought or put a bow on it a little bit for tonight, I don't know. Maybe people will ask more stuff about it as we get going. But for now, I feel like that's still kind of one of the big stories, and a couple new things did happen with a few more of these guys, getting the boot for a while.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the actual situation goes, I mean, I feel like it's well plowed at this point. We've all seen the videos. We all saw what happened. I feel like, now it's just a matter of, are there going to be more suspensions? Are there going to be legal repercussions that come from it? It sounds like that's certainly at least the focus of, some folks on the Michigan side to make sure that happens. But at the end of the day, to me, here's how I'll put a bow on it, and appreciate that, Shane Johnson. This whole ordeal has reminded me once again just how many terrible people there are out there that use social media that should not have the privilege of using social media. Some of the comments I've seen, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter,
one Graham Couch being one of them. That guy,
correct,
that guy can do a lot.
Yeah, it's just been, I get that there's a rivalry there, and that people, there's a lot of passion that's involved, but I just, for the life of me, I can't come to terms with some of the stuff I've seen on social media, specifically regarding this situation over the last, handful of days. It's unfortunately, it's not surprising, but it's just, I feel like, just like getting a driver's license or just like doing anything else, I feel like people should have to take some sort of test just to prove you're not a complete moron before somebody gives you an open platform to spew whatever shit out there you want to put out. It's just been confirmation of things that we already knew. But again, a lot of disgusting people out there on social media. Yeah.
And I mentioned Graham Couch. If you haven't seen it or heard his he verbatim, he actually called the events that happened in the tunnel amazing. That's what he said, like out loud. He's like, it was amazing.
There you go.
I'm like, what? That guy is.
It's amazing until it's your kid that it happens to, or it's your brother that it happens to, or somebody that you can't. When it comes home to roost and it happens at your doorstep or to somebody that you care about, then it's a different scenario. So I think a lot of these people, and what's ironic about this, and I was actually messaging you this earlier today, is that a lot of the people from East Lansing or wherever they're at, the Michigan State Spartan fans who've chosen to come onto the Facebook platform specifically, they come there a lot of them are of the mindset that Jamon Green had no business being where he was, and that by, presuming that he was talking shit, he basically got what he deserved. And they fail to see the irony in the fact that they are also doing, committing the same type of conduct they're accusing Jamon Green of. They show up on a social media platform they're not a part of, they're not welcome at, and they talk shit. So by their own logic, I guess every single person, every single Sparty on the Facebook page has an ass whooping coming. Just, if that's the logic we're going to use, like we can go there. We can do that.
It's just ugly, man. I mean, I can speak for myself. I remember when Juwan Howard did, and I'm just using that as an example because it's been brought up so many times. Like, these issues they're not even close to related, but again, Spartan fans can't help themselves and be like, oh yeah, and that's because your coach does it. Like, you sound like a dumbass, not even a smart one, but a dumbass 10-year-old. Like, literally, like that's how middle school kids used to argue.
You know what? Get back to me when Juwan Howard jumped somebody with like 6 of his assistant coaches and hit somebody else in the head with a chair. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, you're talking about a slap in the head, which again, it was awful look and he paid the price for it. But it's not the same as jumping a guy in the tunnel with a group of other people and then, using your helmet as a weapon and some of the other things that we saw. So the two are not even close to being equal, but I'm not surprised that people are using it as an excuse because, you got to try to find some way to justify it. And that's the other thing. Like, well, we're not condoning what happened, but Jamon Green shouldn't have been. It's like, it's such a double standard. Like, you're not condoning it. And then the next breath, you're condoning it. So,
well, I was going to say, I mean, I can speak for me. I know you didn't. I don't remember anybody who claims to be a journalist in the Michigan market. Again, Graham Couch, whatever the hell he does. I don't care. Everybody who knows about him knows about him.
I've never even heard of the dude.
He's whatever. I'm not even going to get into it. But the point I was going to make is I know I didn't say like, oh, when Juwan Howard clocked that guy, it was amazing. Or like, I know you didn't say that. I didn't hear anybody else saying that. It's like, it's a different breed of scumbag when you can feel cool about that. No matter what your allegiance is to another allegiance, like that, I said it earlier, you're just a shitty person.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't enjoy that on any level for any reason, no matter who's doing it and who's receiving it. Like that's about as low as it gets, man. I don't understand it. Even if you can't stand the other fan base, the other team, the other school, like, I get it. That's what a hated fan base and a hated rivalry is all about. But like, that goes beyond that. That's just being like a human being.
You know what sucks about it? I mean, a lot of things really suck about it, but I feel like I was looking forward to that game a lot because I was confident Michigan was going to win, and I was looking forward to enjoying the win. And it's almost like the joy of the win and getting that rivalry win was stolen by everything that happened afterwards, because that's been the entire conversation. Like, forget about the fact that Michigan, beat Michigan State and they're 8-0 and they're in the driver's seat to head back to Indy, and everything's sort of heading down to Columbus, for a big matchup there. I just feel like it took away from, I don't want to speak for everybody, but personally, the enjoyment of just winning a game like that and winning, being 0-2 against Mel Tucker and finally getting one under the belt. And, it pisses me off. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly not the way you wanted that one to go. And I mean, it did. It ended up being, Michigan wins by 22, gets Paul back. They're still rolling 8-0. The entire press conference was about the event. The entire press conference on Monday was about the event. Here we are on Wednesday still talking about it because more stuff has happened involving the event. And by the way, Steve Morgret, whatever, next time you want to put our show together and let us know how to do our job, let me know. Let the door hit you on the ass, man. What are you we're not going to talk about it? It's like the biggest thing happening right now.
When the actual should we start talking about frosted tips and what we do on the weekends just to piss those people off?
We're 10 minutes in. We got 50 plus minutes.
Dude, there's nothing I love more than people who don't do it, who have suggestions about how we should do it.
Anyway, that's about all the time I was going to spend. I was thinking, about 10 minutes at the beginning. Then we'll shift off of it. Too much for old Margo or whatever his name was.
Too much. That is too much.
All right, let me scroll back up here and see, because I know some people were throwing a few questions out there. It was who did Mr. Shane Johnson.
Yes, sir.
And he started with what he started with. That's fine. He did get to a football question. He said digressed. I think he meant regressed. I'm going to fix your whole question for you, Shane. And because you gave $5, I'm doing it somewhat free of charge. I wonder about this. I don't know if I would say the receivers have regressed. I don't know if that's really fair. I think this is a good talking point. I have heard other fans say, and I know I have certainly seen it on a couple instances, that some of the route running sometimes isn't as crisp or as sharp as it probably could or should be. And I wonder if that's a product of maybe a regression under Bellamy. I doubt it. Or if it's like what we talked about, dude. When you play 70 snaps and you don't get a target, I feel like you can kind of start to banana a route here and there. Like, that's not an excuse, but they're 8 games in now, and you've got some, a lot of talented receivers on the team who aren't really getting to be a big part of the offense. I don't know. So he's saying that Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum need to be on the field together a lot to win in Columbus, and that the receivers aren't really pulling their weight. I don't know if I really agree with that. It still feels way more like a game plan thing to me than anything else.
Yep.
So, Shane, I don't think your thought process is like off base or insulting or negative. I think it's layered. I think there's a little more to it than just saying the receivers aren't playing very good under Ron Bellamy.
Well, and it's like what I've said multiple times, on our show, is that I think that all of these guys have the freedom. You're talking about Sherrone Moore and Matt Weiss in terms of calling plays and how things are going to look. I think they have the freedom to basically call whatever they want, as long as it's within the framework of Jim Harbaugh's offense. And Jim Harbaugh's offense, no matter, you go back to 2015 and you look at it year by year, it's just not favorable to the wide receiver group. And this year, more than any, think about how much time and how much we heard about, how talented that wide receiver room was, leading up to the season, the comparison with Andrel Anthony to Braylon Edwards and things like that. We were excited that this was going to be, a really big turning point in the Michigan offense, and they were going to start to use some of those weapons, and it just hasn't happened yet. And again, Brandon and I, Brandon might be flipping back to the dark side a little bit. I'm still like, I'm in a place right now where I'm okay with it. I don't know that the receivers are okay with it. In fact, based on, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I'm almost 100% sure that there are a chunk of the receivers that aren't really satisfied with it. And I don't know how you could be when you're not heavily involved. But at the end of the day, when you're 8-0, and if, that leads to Columbus and Michigan goes back to Indy and those guys are in the playoff again, Every single one of those guys is going to be happy to be a part of that. And that's really the ultimate goal. And so if it pays off, if this strategy pays off and they can win this way in Columbus and they can do it in Indy and then they can do it in the playoff, so be it. But if it doesn't pay off, if they do trip and fall and stumble in Columbus because they can't move the ball through the air and they can't keep up with that Ohio State offense, I do think people are going to look at, well, why didn't we sort of do something with our offense that would allow us to compete with the Buckeyes down in Columbus? And I think if they lose, you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't say it exactly how Shane said it. I don't think it's that simple, cause and effect, Bellarmine, bad. I don't think that's what it is, but I do think it's layered, and I do think it's something that we're going to hear a lot about if it plays out the way you just said. I mean, there's no question about it. It's something that will be, kind of at the forefront of how that game ends up looking. And they got a few other ones first. Rutgers played Michigan tough last year. Don't want to overlook them in Piscataway. Illinois can run the ball, and I'm not, but everybody knows what it's about. It's that game in the end of the year. There's no question about it. I mean, that's what it's going to come.
Well, Brandon, just take it one game at a time right now. We've got Rutgers on the schedule. I'm sure you're over there watching game film, sending notes to Harbaugh so that he can implement them into the game plan. And by the way, if you're watching this show and you haven't done your part to watch game film on Rutgers, what are you doing? Like, this is a 1 week at a time approach here. Everybody needs input.
Yeah. How dare us talk about the Ohio State game?
Dare you?
We got a few shout outs to go through. Screonk again, as always. What's the minimum number of red zone touchdowns you'd like to see this weekend to feel more confident about the program? That's a good question. Yeah. I think you need my general rule of thumb is if you're a team worth a shit, if you know what you're about, you have an identity, and you're solid on offense, I think you need to score like 3 out of 4 times you're in there. If you get inside the 20, you got first and goal from the 18. I want 3 out of 4 touchdowns. That's probably like an elite number. It's probably closer to like 50-50 because, you're going to kick some field goals in there. I think it's about how they look too. Like Michigan has had first and goal from the 4 and had to kick a field goal. That's very different than having first and goal from the 19. So I think there's a little bit of nuance, like depending on where you start from, where you have a first down at. Are you just shaded inside the 20? Or are you down on the 2 and still can't punch it in? Which we've seen Michigan do both of those things this year.
Listen, if we see any of that shit this weekend in Piscataway, I am going to be on fire. Rutgers is 4-4. They're not very good. They just lost to Minnesota 31-0. Michigan, every single time they get in the red zone, they need to score. So how many red zone touchdowns do I need to see? Every single damn time they're in the red zone in Piscataway, they need to put the ball in the end zone. And there's no excuse for it, because if you look at the post-game comments from Blake Corum and particularly J.J. McCarthy, they understand that. They know they left points on the board. And so if they get that and they understand that and they know they have to do better, and you're going up against an opponent that's not very good, damn it, just put the ball in the end zone. Just do it. And maybe I'm going to say it, but I don't want to say it. Maybe this is a good opportunity to really get that passing game up and running, because you do have that Ohio State matchup coming up
10 weeks into the year. Let's give it a shot. By the way, can I reference that you called me wanting a more wide open offense the dark side? You called that have you really gone that far that's now the dark side to you?
Well, listen, it's not the dark side, but I mean, we look all year. We said it up until, all the way to the playoff. And then we spent like the first 5-6 weeks saying it this year, and all they do is keep winning. And so I just feel like an asshole by continuing to complain about the offense. But I would be lying if I said there isn't a part in the back of my head, a sizable portion that thinks it is going to stop working when Michigan needs it to work the most. And then they're going to have to turn to that passing game. And I'm telling you, if you go down to Columbus and you miss on a few deep balls where you got an open wide receiver and you take 14 to 21 points off the board, the Buckeyes will make you pay. This is not Iowa, Indiana. It's not even Penn State. That's a whole nother animal down there. And I love the Michigan defense. I think they're great. Ohio State's scoring about 48 points a game right now, a little over 48 points a game. I think Michigan's going to have to score a lot of points down in Columbus. I don't see it being a 14-10, slugfest contest. I think they're going to have to score points.
Yeah, there's no question. What prompted all of that, by the way, for anybody curious out there, was Tennessee being ranked number 1 last night. I've been a fan of Josh Heupel and his offense for several years, and you may remember that in 2020, I wasn't completely I wasn't the biggest supporter of Mr. Jim Harbaugh. And I wrote an article because it looked like, they were 2-4, would have gotten beat by 1,000 against Ohio State had they played. And it really looked like he might be done. And if you remember, they chopped his contract in half, put all these incentives in there. And then 2021 was incredible. But at that time, people started talking about, all right, if Jim Harbaugh is gone, and remember, he was looking for the NFL and this, that, and the other, I started to put a list together of who might be on there, who might be able to replace him. And Josh Heupel was on my list back then. Yeah. In 2020, he was coaching at UCF, and now that's one of those games where after you watch a Michigan game, and again, they're 8-0, they're pounding people, they're winning by 20 plus, but you turn on a Tennessee game and it looks like a different sport. It's just high octane, chuck it. I don't know, man. You and I, we probably have a malfunction. I don't know what it is, but it's in there. We both want it, even though it might not work as well as what we're watching. Anyway, it is what it is.
It's a style preference.
Mark Ackerman, Damani Dent asks, Damani Dent, Nikhai Hill-Green both have not dressed for a game this year. Any insight on their injury status? Is it disciplinary? I'm not speaking in fact here, but I don't think it has anything to do with discipline because I've seen them both around the building multiple times.
I actually saw them both down on the field. They were heavily involved in the pregame stuff. I know it for a fact. It has to do with health and injury status, and I don't know what the details are of it. And again, it always feels uncomfortable and
a little bit. But I will say, Nikhai Hill-Green has dressed for a few games this year and then just not played. So I would imagine whatever he's dealing with is not that serious.
Yep.
I don't believe Damani Dent has been in uniform. Maybe I'm wrong on that, Chris. You might have seen him down there.
I haven't seen him in uniform yet. I do remember seeing Nikhai Hill-Green in uniform, I think against Hawaii.
It was early.
Yeah, I think against Hawaii I saw him in uniform and got some photos of him. So that's the only reason I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't have a lot of insight, but it doesn't look, like I've seen Damani Dent bouncing around outside of Schembechler coming in and out of the building. It's not like he's on crutches. It's not like he's got a huge knee brace on. I don't know what he's dealing with, but to Chris's point, doesn't seem to be anything going on with discipline. I mean, they're involved in around everything all the time. So, I just want to make sure that we're not putting anything out there that's controversial. That it's not a controversial thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is that's keeping them off the field.
Yep.
All right, let me scroll back up and find a couple more here. Well, we'll back to the question, back to the throw the ball in the end zone question. Do you think Michigan should put a big receiver in the red zone? Look, man, and he references Clemens. Andrew Anthony, 6'3". Cornelius Johnson, 6'3". Ronnie Bell's about 6 foot and has probably a 42+ inch vertical. I mean, he's not a big body, but he's good at going up and getting the ball. He certainly can contort and control his body, and he's got phenomenal hands. The only guys who I would even say are undersized receivers on the team aren't like Roman Wilson's pretty small. He's the smallest one of the bunch. He can fly. Obviously, you get down to, inside the 10, that negates his advantage a little bit. And then AJ Henning. Yes, I'm not throwing a fade ball to either one of those two guys, but you've got three others. And then you've got Luke Schoonmaker, who's a big dude who can go up and get it. Eric All, I know he's not playing anymore, but he was for the first part of the season. It just doesn't seem to be a thing that they want to do. It's just not how they want to approach.
But why, damn it? Why? Why won't they try it once, Brandon? Why?
I don't know.
Especially if you're struggling in the red zone. Why won't you do like a quick two-step drop to Andrell and the fade in the back of the end zone? Like, why won't you try it? Just give it a shot.
So D Original, to answer your question, you don't even have to name Clemens. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 dudes you could try it with. I mean, look, if you're gonna play if you're gonna play 19 tight ends at once, throw one of them the ball and let them be big.
Those big boys eat. Let them eat.
Man. I don't know. So yeah, it just does not seem to be something they're gonna do at this point.
Why do it when you're 8-0?
There you go. T-Mac McLean. How did we feel about JJ's passing against Michigan State? Was it him, or was he a bit rusty, or is he just too overhyped, or something? It's weird.
What are you going to say right now, Brandon? What are you going to say?
You've got now a string of 4 to 5 to 6 quarterbacks who kind of all look the same when they play quarterback at Michigan. I don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, you had Shea Patterson as a true freshman just freaking wheeling and dealing, dude, at Ole Miss, winging it around the field. People were calling him Johnny Manziel 2.0. He comes to Michigan, he throws for like $165, a touchdown, and gets out of there. I mean, Cade McNamara last year, everybody's like, he's not talented enough. He can't do this. He can't do that. Now J.J. McCarthy, who's got all the talent in the world, his stat lines look just like Cade McNamara's.
15 of 25 for 167 yards and a touchdown against Michigan State.
Is he in double-digit touchdowns yet? 8 games into the season. Does he have 10? I think he's got 10.
Yeah, because I think he had 9.
I think that's right.
I think he had 9 heading into it. But you look down at the rushing, and he's, Blake Corum obviously with a solid day, 177 yards on the ground, and JJ McCarthy had 50 yards rushing on 7 carries. So there is, listen, how do I feel about the passing game? I feel very underwhelmed by it, but I don't think it's a JJ McCarthy issue. It goes back to, it's just not, it's not an offense that's going to lend itself to quarterbacks putting up big numbers and wide receivers getting production. It's just, that's not what this offense is. And that's what the big struggle has been, is like, we want to sit here and kind of dissect, is there something wrong with JJ, or is there something wrong with the passing game? I don't think there's anything wrong with any of it. I just think it's not set up that way, to use those guys in the way that, most people think they should be used. So did he look a little bit rusty? Was he off on some throws? Yeah, he made some good throws. Overall, I think he had a solid game, but you don't have to do a lot when you have a guy like Blake Corum, who is just Mr. Consistency out on the field, week in, week out, putting up the numbers and basically carrying that offense on his back.
Yeah. I mean, kind of to this same point, whether it's a product of being coached by this staff or the offense that Jim Harbaugh wants to run. And again, I'm calling it Jim Harbaugh's offense.
I was going to say, they've had different offensive coordinators. They've had different, it looks the same year after year.
We put that picture up on Monday about the 2010 Stanford offense and the Harbaugh offense. Right now, it's the same thing. It's Harbaugh's offense. Got some guys maybe calling the plays, but I don't think Sharon Moore is sitting down drawing up the play that's being run out on the field. I think he's handed a list.
Do you think he's just in a room drawing up different ways to hand off the ball to Blake Corum? We're going to hand it and go this way, and we're going to hand it off and go that way. Now, JJ, if you turn around and give it
JJ
that
can do the thriller before he gives it to him. I mean, yeah, whatever they want to do out there, man. But kind of to this point, Davi Belfort, big-time 2024 quarterback who had visited Michigan multiple times, had an offer. I don't know where he was at on their board exactly. He's from Florida. Just dropped the top 7, no Michigan. Michigan State's in there. Tennessee, shocker. Hendon Hooker's throwing the ball all over the yard. Ole Miss, shocker. Florida, they let Anthony Richardson throw it all over the place. Penn State, Sean Clifford, you can make an argument there. Bama, whatever, Virginia Tech. So, I mean, it kind of speaks to all this stuff. I mean, you've got a kid like JJ who's been a gunslinger, when he was at Nazareth, then when he went to IMG, and then we saw all the stuff, the training and leading up to it, and now he's in the game and he doesn't. I mean,
But then, how do you explain Jaden Davis, who seems to be pretty high on Michigan right now?
Well,
and was in the big house. He was in the big house Saturday.
He's had multiple opportunities to commit to Michigan, which is a school that he loves, and he hasn't done it. That's how I would explain it. I mean, if that's a kid, if that same exact kid is going to all this stuff and being at Michigan, multiple visits, this, that, the other, and JJ McCarthy has 3,500 yards and 36 touchdowns right now, he's a commit. I don't think there's any question. So, I
mean, Michigan's competing against Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU, North Carolina, Texas A&M, who,
from North Carolina, yeah. But right. Drake, the quarterback for North Carolina, is putting up like Heisman numbers, dude, throwing the ball around for the Tar Heels. I mean, so it comes back to this, you got to balance what's working. You've got to balance, what as a team, what your strengths are.
Did we talk about this? Did we talk about this on the show? We were talking about the type of quarterback, if this is the type of offense that Michigan is going to run, why not just go out and get a super mobile quarterback, like a Denard Robinson, who, you put a guy like Denard and then you have Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum in the backfield. I mean, that's dangerous. If you're not going to ask a kid like JJ McCarthy to do what a guy like that is capable of doing, I just feel like they should recruit a different type of quarterback who's mobile and can add to the running game. It doesn't make any sense to bring these guys in and the same can be said for the wide receivers as well. Hell, you might as well just recruit all tight ends, put the tight ends out wide, bring them in, do whatever you want to do. There's really not a need for the wide receivers.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Where
mean,
the hell's the flea flicker at, Brandon? Where is that? Even Cade
Granted.
McNamara got to. Where?
Once.
Oh my goodness.
Once. Sean Bennett, that's a good question. Is this Blake's last year as a Wolverine? He's having a great year. The only thing he's got the tape. He's going to test well. He'll bench well. He'll do all the jumping, running. He'll do all that well whenever he does decide to do the combine and all that stuff. His running back just isn't that position anymore. There's almost no incentive to leave early as a running back in terms of draft status, because unless you are like otherworldly, you're probably not even going in the first round. The one thing is usage, and they are using the hell out of him right now. I mean, you talk about a whole other season with 20, 25, 30 carries a game. That takes a lot of years off of a running back's life. So I don't really know if I could make a prediction on that right now. I mean, I think Blake loves it at Michigan. He's obviously having a hell of a time, but go get paid and go to the league, man. I mean, I don't know which way he would be leaning at this point.
I get a gut feeling that he's the type of dude that wants to stick around and be a captain on this football team. And he's obviously got all the leadership traits you could want. And we'll see how this year plays out. But, I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Like, do they, if you don't win a national championship this year and you think you can win one and you're Blake Corum, then, there is going to be obviously some incentive to stay, but he's certainly putting a lot on film. It looks like, I mean, if things keep going the way they're going, there's a high probability that he'll be in New York at the end of the year. And I think, once you get to that point, you're getting that kind of national recognition. It's hard to sort of pass up on an opportunity to go play football at the next level.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Probably not going to spend a ton of time on this because, as Nathan Goddard says in the question, it doesn't matter that much right now. Georgia, Tennessee play this weekend. Michigan, Ohio State play in a month.
It's horseshit is what it is.
Horseshit. It's exactly where I was going to go with it. It doesn't really matter, but it's got to stick in your craw a little bit. I mean, ACC football is not Big Ten football. Clemson was trash last year. They haven't been all that convincing this year. I just don't understand. I don't get the justification.
I was standing in front of my TV because we were obviously going to announce it, on our socials, and the article was going to go out. And I was standing in front of my TV, and I had I didn't expect Michigan to be at number 5. Yeah, when they were listed at number 5, like it blew my mind. Like I was literally, my mind was blown. And then the whole Clemson deal. I mean, you put Michigan and Clemson on an equal field right now on a neutral field, and I think Michigan's going to take it to them. The style of football that they play, and so and then they got into some things about Ohio State and how Ohio State looked against Penn State versus Michigan, and I don't know. I think the early non-conference schedule is hurting them a little bit. And at the end of the day, I try not to get too invested into these things because I think you win and you're in if you're Michigan. That's what it is. You win and you're in. And so it's, it's fun stuff for the family to talk, or for the fans and everybody to talk about and get riled up about. But at the end of the day, if they take care of business, they're in.
Yeah. This is a hard one to measure. Thanks, Lee Brandon, for the donation and the question. I'll give you a little one right here. What do we got? Maybe he just wanted to hear that song. I don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with his question at all. But thank you, Lee. Do we think that this year's team is mentally stronger and even more bonded than last year's team? Because last year's team certainly, turned a big corner in a big way to fix that culture. And I don't know, Chris. I mean, I don't know how you measure that, but it seems to be at least there. I'd say, on par or better than last year's team in that regard.
Yeah, I think a lot of those, I think that was going to be the big question, is we knew that, obviously with Aiden Hutchinson and some of the other veteran guys that were there, they did a lot to reset the culture. And we talked about it leading into the season. It was all we heard was culture this and vibe this, and everything has changed. And you really wonder how much that's going to make an impact on the football field. And then they go out and do what they did. And I really, truly think guys like JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, some of those guys, Mike Morris, they have taken that leadership role seriously. Mozzie Smith. I mean, look at how much time Mozzie Smith spends teaching and out there trying to help develop other guys. Mike Sainristil, another phenomenal leader on this football team. They just, across the board, they've got leaders everywhere. And I would say what was built in 21 is certainly carried over into 2022 and is, expanded and grown. And it's really cool to watch, man. A team that's that close knit, that plays that hard for each other, that has that kind of camaraderie and brotherhood. It's fun to watch. It's fun to cover. It's fun to be around them.
I will tie his question together with the JJ McCarthy referenced Jake Moody as being one of, if not the best leaders on the team with his maturity, with his approach. Yeah, he's a kicker. He's not out there doing a lot of the stuff that the other position guys are doing. But I'll tell you what, man, that hit on Nick Singleton against Penn State, I think took Jake Moody's level of leadership to new heights. I mean, he's referenced it. Some of the other players have referenced it weeks after the game now. And so I don't know, I don't know if that's why Sledgehammer was mentioned in that question, but I will throw Jake Moody and a guy like Brad Robbins.
No doubt.
Of leaders that Chris just rattled off. I mean, you can go across the board. The linemen, certainly Olu, new guy to the program. You can tell everybody on the team respects what that dude says and how he carries and conducts himself. So I think across the board, he mentioned Mike Morris, Mike Sainer still, even RJ Moten. I mean, there's dudes all over that team that seem to love everybody on the team and get love from everybody on the team. And I think Jake Moody and Brad Robbins are a big part of that, even though, I don't even know. Are kickers and punters people? No one really knows. But they're leaders, and they're doing a good thing for Michigan right now. And like I said, that hit, dude, that hit by Jake Moody was incredible. Down a running back like a linebacker. It was awesome.
Yeah,
and the players love that. And it's like I said, it's been referenced more than a couple times since then, and it's been 3 weeks since that happened. So, yeah, I think there really is no way to truly measure like camaraderie and togetherness and culture, but you know it when you see it, and you know it when you don't. And it's certainly
there's no question.
It's certainly there this year, at least as strong as it was last year. So anyway,
and it wasn't really there in 2020, and 2-4 football team. So
yeah, no, there's no question. I think this is interesting. D Original again. I didn't realize it was the same person, but somebody in the comments earlier said that Blake probably should stay because he might get hurt too much in the NFL, and I just don't know if I really agree with that. For a couple reasons. One, I mean, Blake's short, but he's put together, man. Barry Sanders, one of my favorite players, not one of, he's my favorite player of all time. I've had this memorized my whole life. He was 5'8", 203. Blake Corum is listed at 5'8", 210. And he's shifty, and he's fast, and he doesn't take a lot of big hits. Now,
well, and have you stood next to him? I mean, the dude is, what do they call it? A brick shit house? Is that what they call it?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, he'll be fine.
There's no question. And I do think when you start to do it, if it's what you're doing for a living, you start to take into account, all right, it's a longer season in the NFL. I plan to play for more than 4 years. I can't be taking hits like that. It's more about taking care of your body. And Blake's been doing that stuff like a pro for years already. So I don't think there's going to be any issue with him when it comes to durability. I mean, no NFL players skate through their whole career without getting dinged. And running back is one of the.
He was injured last year. He missed some time last year with it. It happens. Yeah,
but he's got everything you possibly need to have a long career and not be concerned with the.
And can I just say, by the way, we do have Mr. James Corum in the house, Blake's father.
Oh,
James,
there you go.
Great to have you here. Appreciate you stopping by.
Did he throw a comment up there? I'll put it up there. If he did.
Well, not really a comment. He's just kind of been interacting. I can see it in the comments.
There it is. We appreciate you too, Mr. Corum.
I don't know if that was I don't know if that was to us. I think he's been having conversations in the comments section. But you know what? I'll take it anyway. We appreciate that you appreciate us, James.
There you go. Oh, he's commenting on the whether or not Blake might go pro thing, and he said because I think somebody up in the comments said get that NFL money, that's a big game changer. And James said, we're good. It's not like some situations where, and props to him. I mean, that's incredible. But there's no question that some guys leave earlier than they should because they have to. They've got a bad situation wherever they came from. And that kind of money changes everything about their family tree, not just their immediate. It goes well beyond their home doors. So there's a lot that I'm not gonna ask James like, well, tell us then what's going to happen at the end. We're not gonna do that. But
what's he doing? What's the next move?
That's a little bit of insight from about as close as you can get to it. So we certainly appreciate that insight. That's awesome. And he's been in here before. He's a regular. He's one of the OGs, man. There's no doubt. Let's see. This is a good question from Miss Kate Alverson. We love it.
Hey, great to see you. Right? Yeah, and she was at the tailgate this past weekend.
That's
it was great to finally meet you in person. Can I just say, by the way, that's one of the coolest things is when you interact with people on social media for for years sometimes, and you never meet
Yeah.
them in person. Then all of a sudden you're like standing face to face, and it's like, holy shit, you're a real person. And it's just those interactions have happened a lot this year, and so I really appreciate it. Again, it was great to meet you, Kate, and I appreciate the question.
Yeah, so this is a good one, and I obviously did. I mean, I had a prediction that 3 guys would get a sack, that the total number would be more than it is. Were you surprised, Chris, that there wasn't more pressure on Peyton Thorne in that game? And we've kind of seen this all year. There's been some peaks and valleys with this pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both expected a lot of, a lot of sacks on Saturday night. We expected that defense was going to get to Peyton Thorne and make things difficult. In a lot of ways, they did make it difficult. But, it's just like with the wide receiver stuff. It's hard, when it doesn't happen a lot, it's hard not to like kind of, raise your brow a little bit and wonder why. But yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't get to Peyton Thorne more, but at the end of the day, I mean, that offense was essentially non-existent. They weren't really able to do anything, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Michigan was content with just trotting out Jake Moody drive after drive after drive and putting 3 points on, 3 points on, 3 points on, because they knew Michigan State didn't have an answer.
Had another one.
Hey.
As I'm searching for that, Chris,
Burden, what's up, my guy?
As I'm searching for that to throw it up there, I'm going to put a question up from none other than your mom.
Oh, my goodness. Mama's in the house?
That wasn't like your mom.
Oh.
That was like your mom. She's in here.
Oh, that wasn't your mama?
Your mama. No. I'm going to, answer it directly, but I'm going to actually add to it a little bit too. How can the red zone issues get fixed quickly? Can they get fixed quick? God, that's a mouthful. Can they get fixed quickly? Obviously, the Ohio State thing, we've been talking about that, but it's your mom's question, dude. Take it and run.
Yes, it can be fixed quickly by just changing what you do when you get in the red zone. I mean, that it's not like these guys have never played football before. It's not like they don't know how to get creative. It's not. We've seen jet sweeps with AJ Henning, and we've seen some creative things that this team is able to do, even if they are run heavy. I just think it really comes down to the creativity and allowing this team to do what they're capable of doing. And I'm all for hammering it away with Blake Corum because he's proven that he's a known commodity and he does what he does week in and week out. But people expect that. And sometimes the drives, when they get in the red zone, they stall out. And I'm not sure how much of that is a part of Michigan just being content with like, look, if we can't hammer the ball in, then we're going to hammer it with Jake Moody. And we're just going to continue to do it that way. But can it be fixed quickly? Yes, it can be fixed quickly because there's probably about this many pages of plays that they can run in the edge zone that would be far more effective than what they've been doing. I guarantee it.
Chris, I love your enthusiasm.
Am I crazy?
I think you might be because I like. Did you forget who the head coach is?
Okay, so you don't believe the switch can just be flipped?
No,
you don't think they're waiting to flip it for Columbus?
And Jim Harbaugh has removed every switch in every office and house that he's ever been in.
There's just one giant switch at the beginning of the season.
He just hangs from it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
The wheels start turning, tight ends start coming out, offensive linemen.
Yeah,
release.
Just 40 dudes wearing number 89. Like, Jim, they can't all wear 89. Yeah, that's what I picture. So I don't disagree with you in theory, but I think you forgot for a minute.
Well, okay, I guess maybe I took the question differently. Can it be fixed quickly? Yes. Will it be fixed at all? Probably not. No. I think this is going to be the formula until somebody out there proves it won't work. And
yeah,
I don't know
that's. If it's working, you can make fun of Jim Harbaugh's approach all you want and the tight ends and the big giant switch cartoon we just created in our head.
Make fun of 8-0 while you're at it too.
Yeah.
Make fun of being in the playoff hunt while you're at it. You know what I mean? Like Michigan is right where they want to be. And I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun.
Old Jimmy's going to have quite the rebuttal to all of it. And that's the bottom line. That's as far as it really needs to go. That's it. Perfect. So Michael Bird, this is a really good question. I've seen it a lot. It's been all over social media. I find myself pretty torn about this because, like, immediately his question for those of you who can't see it on YouTube or that aren't on YouTube, you guys think that the Michigan and Michigan State rivalry needs to take a bit of a hiatus. Immediately when I read that question, I say, no, dude, that's crazy. But then I start to think about it a little bit, and it has seemed to get worse and worse and worse recently. That toxic? Is it good? Maybe a little bit of a reset wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I still tend to lean towards no. Where's your head at on this, Chris?
So here's the thing. I want the game to be played every single year because I think it's a phenomenal rivalry. But I will say this last game, the weeks leading up to it, and certainly the week after it, has just been absolutely exhausting. If you're somebody who's, if you're on the social media, if you're in the market, if you can see what the conversations are that are being had, it's just been exhausting. Like I said earlier in the show, like I didn't even enjoy it. Like I didn't even enjoy the fact that Michigan won the game. And honestly, if you are going to do it, like, maybe you do it next year and you try to, I guess you make the point that this game does not have to be played. Like it's a privilege to be able to play in these games. And if people are going to act a fool, fans and players alike, then maybe you take it away for a year and you set the tone and you say, look, if this is how you guys are going to act, then we're just not going to play the damn game. And I think fans would be disappointed and players would be disappointed in that. Now, granted, I'm fine taking a year off since Paul Bunyan's in Ann Arbor and would be totally cool with that. But yeah, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world. I don't want to see it happen. But if somebody came out, a week from now and said, you know what, based on everything that happened, we're not going to play the game next year. To me, it would be understandable because there are a lot of idiots out there that contribute to the toxic environment that has surrounded this rivalry, creating a situation where it's almost not enjoyable at this point. Like I said, how much of that win did you enjoy? How much of the, after the win did you enjoy it? Like, I feel like the game didn't happen. I feel like it was just a fight.
I mean, me personally, all I was doing was scrambling to write bullshit articles about something that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
I mean, that's all I was doing during the final stretches when I should have been, I don't know. Yeah, it's not good. And like I said, immediately, my immediate first thought is no, you can't take that game away. But again, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to maybe reset it just a little bit. I've heard people talk about, what. This was obviously really bad. I mean, it was an assault. A dude was clocking another human being in the head with a helmet. You could kill somebody like that for sure.
Correct.
So that's really bad. I guess the question would be, and like, because they're players, like it's not a big deal. Like that's bullshit too. Like it doesn't matter. You've seen people, prognosticating and predicting and saying like, well, maybe when a fan gets stomped outside of the stadium and something worse happens, then maybe you'd, and like it could go there with the way that this thing has been. Sure as hell. That's what I'm saying. Let me ask you this: for that to happen.
Let me ask you this: what do you think the environment and the energy is going to be like leading up to that game in East Lansing next year?
Horrid.
It's going to be awful. People are going to be energized. People are going to be fighting with each other for weeks leading up to that game. And obviously there's a lot of guys that were in the game on Michigan's side last Saturday that are going to be playing in that game next year. And they're going to remember that shit too. And if I'm a player, I mean, even as somebody who wasn't like directly involved, I'm a photographer down there and I'm a Michigan fan. I took it personally. I was pissed off and I feel like I'm going to be angry going into that game. And so, but again, if leadership is good and you have the right coach in place, like you'll be able to get your guys in the right mindset and you'll take care of business. I just think I can already tell, man, this year was bad. And based on what happened post game, next year leading up to it is going to be worse unless people miraculously get their shit together over the next year. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm looking for Travis. Old Travis had a question, man. And now I lost it up here. I remember what it was, but I still
Travis.
Yeah, the homie, always hanging out, always out there. Oh, there it is right there. It's an easy question, but I have had this thought, and I don't know a lot about Rutgers at this point, but I can't ever forget about 78-0 in Piscataway and just how bad Rutgers has typically been. They are better now under Greg Schiano. There's no doubt. Does Michigan have a chance to shut them out? Shutting out a team is hard to do in college football these days. Seems like everybody can score and move the ball. And a lot of times late, you get some garbage points. But I don't know. We're going to talk about, the predictions and a little bit more of the specifics of the game on Friday, obviously, Chris. But early thoughts on, how Michigan's defense might be able to handle Rutgers.
If Minnesota can shut out Rutgers, and I certainly think Michigan can. Now, will Rutgers put 2 back-to-back shutouts out there? It's hard to do, and I'm not sure. But yeah, I think look, if they don't shut them out, I don't know how important it is to shut them out, but I do think it's going to be a convincing win. And I think that going back to one of the earlier things that we talked about, how many times does Michigan need to score in the red zone in order to show it's not an issue? In Piscataway, they need to score every single time, touchdowns every single time they get in the red zone against a team like Rutgers, 4-4. They've got no answer for what Michigan does offensively. Zero. So there's no excuse for not punching it in.
No doubt. I mean, that's what everybody's going to be watching after last week. I mean, it seemed to be kind of, magnified last week because they were such short field goals, and it was Michigan State, and it was the rivalry, and Michigan State's defense isn't supposed to be good, and Michigan still couldn't get those touchdowns going in the end zone. So, I don't know. It just feels like they need to improve on that in a big way. Damn it, I lost the questions again. That's when I scroll down, it like loads all the new ones, and I lose my spot where I was before. All right,
we're already at 50 minutes.
I know. This is what I was going to throw up there, Chris. Eric Brinkman, when's the online store going up? He can't drive to get these hats. He wants to know what's up, man.
Well, I can tell you this. I have seen the online store this week. I think it looks great. And it goes live tomorrow. So for anybody out there who has been wanting, to get their hands on some merchandise, the online store will be live tomorrow. I can't give you a specific time. I know it's going to be later afternoon, but it will go live tomorrow. I will put the link out, and then, the beanies, the snapbacks, the Beat State stuff, that's all going to be on there. There's going to be a few new additions as well. Some apparel that hasn't been released yet. And, for us, it's, Brandon and I have spent a lot of time talking about merchandise, and it's not a big money maker for us, but what it does is, it helps really spread the message. It helps spread the branding. And at the end of the day, it's part of the business that we want to grow. So for everybody that goes and, makes a purchase there, hopefully the process is going to be far more streamlined as opposed to you sending me a message on Facebook and me giving you Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, and then me packaging it up, me hoping I don't screw up the shipping address, me sending out the tracking numbers. Like, it's a fully automated process at this point, and I'm excited to be able to release it.
My Uncle Mike with a really good point about this Michigan State thing moving forward. My uncle's a big hockey guy. I never have been, but if you're in Michigan and you're around our age or older, you certainly remember the Wings every year being really solid, playing meaningful hockey, and you certainly remember their rivalry against Colorado and how the puck dropped, and it's a fight immediately between Darren McCarty, who is a friend of the show, by the way. Darren McCarty, a friend of the Winged Helmet, a friend of Wolverine Digest, was out there swinging the clubs around a little bit with us and Braylon. That was a really cool thing. But anyway, yeah, it's. I mean, hockey kind of has that built in a little bit. I don't think people are going to the opening kickoff helmets come off and they're fighting. I don't think it's going to be like that for the Michigan State game, but you expect it to be nasty beforehand, like you said, chippy during the game, more stuff afterward. Like,
what you don't expect is some dude to take a skate off and start using it to shank one of the opposing players.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It just feels like it's going to have that build up until I don't know what the fix is. It might only be fixed by a pause button for a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and that sucks. It sucks that we're at that place. But again, if you think about all the energy and how toxic it was leading up to this game, and then obviously after, I can't imagine it's going to be any better next year. And in fact, I think based on what happened, it's going to be considerably. Dude, this is all people are going to talk about leading up to that game. Those videos are going to resurface. Yeah. The anger is going to be there, and you're going to have a bunch of pissed off people crammed into a stadium together, and a bunch of players on the field who are also angry about what happened and are going to have the first opportunity to do something about it. To me, it seems like a recipe for disaster, whether somebody on the field gets hurt, somebody in the stands gets hurt. And it sucks that that's where it's at, but that is where it's at. That's the reality of the situation. Would hate to see that game not be played, but if people can't get their shit together, that's where this is headed.
This is an interesting one. And Chris, I think you threw out Denard Robinson, and we talked about him. Can you imagine if he was the quarterback in this offense?
Oh, my
having that threat back there. Nick with a little donation from the YouTube page.
Hey.
Tim Tebow, a Cardale Jones type in this offense. I wonder how much different it would look, because I was going to be a dick right out of the gate and say, yeah, Nick, I can imagine it. Tim Tebow would go 11 for 15 for 141 yards and a touchdown. He might carry it 3 times, and you get out with a 20-point win because your running back ran for 203 scores. Like that's immediately where my mind went to. But we did get excited when we talked about the possibilities of what Denard could do. Certainly a guy like Tebow, who was like a fullback who threw it sometimes. Cardale Jones was a big dude. He actually wasn't a big-time running threat. He was much more of a, like, wing it down the field type.
I mean, Cardale Jones was good because the offense allowed him to do what he could do. You know what I mean? So I don't know that Cardale Jones would be the difference maker. But, yeah, if you put a mobile quarterback, like a true – I know JJ's there, but I is he a true dual threat? Like, he can certainly hurt you with his legs. He's got the mobility, but I mean, he doesn't have that shake and shimmy like Denard used to have, where he can break it off for 90 yards and gets in the open field and nobody can catch him.
You're talking Denard. You're talking Lamar. You're talking Mike Vick. You're talking
Lamar Jackson in this.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking any number of these guys who literally carry it like 20 times a game. I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks out there who are Jalen Hurts, even in the NFL right now for the Eagles, dude. Like, there are plenty of quarterbacks out there who are an integral part to every team's rushing attack. JJ's not that. He can run. He's fast. He's also a little slight. He's not built like any of those guys. He's probably not even 200 pounds. But it is a fun thing to think about. And like I said, I'm being a little facetious, but I think you put Tim Tebow in there, and well, there's your stat line. Looks like JJ's, looks like Cade's, looks like Shay's, looks like Wilton Spates, looks like. I mean, you go right down the list.
Maybe not quite John O'Corn's.
Yeah, maybe not that far down, but you get the point. Chris Fields with another one. Appreciate you as always, brother. Does the current college football playoff rankings create a situation making it nearly impossible for a one-loss Michigan to get in? I was going to say that earlier. While it doesn't really matter now, if Michigan remains number 4, because Tennessee and Georgia are going to play this weekend. So Michigan's going to be in the top 4 next week. Like, that's going to, because one of them.
Well, now, Brandon, take it 1 week at a time. They could lose out there in Piscataway. We're not really sure. Crazy things happen in college football.
And, I guess if Georgia beats Tennessee, it's conceivable that that Tennessee doesn't fall out of the top 4. They should. I feel like that would be like an automatic. Like, if you're number 1, you're undefeated and you lose, you're no longer in the top 4 playoff picture. You can't be. You got to be at least at 5. So anyway,
unless you lose to another top 4 team, right?
That's what I'm saying. It would be, because Georgia's number 3. Like, it's going to get a little interesting to see how that happens and what it looks like. I think ideally for Michigan fans who want to just see Michigan in the top 4, you want Tennessee to lose this weekend, because then Georgia will fall out of the top 4 being at number 3. Anyway. My whole point of answering this question is that there's some Michigan fans that are ruffled that Michigan's at number 5, but I think what this does say is that a one-loss team, Michigan, is not going to sniff the top 4. It's not going to happen. Whereas before, I thought that if their only loss was to the number 1, number 2, or number 3 Ohio State, if it's even remotely close, you could make an argument that they should get in. But this pretty much shows that that's not going to happen.
There's no question about it. Michigan loses a game. If they have a loss on their record this year, they are not going to the college football playoff unless all hell breaks loose in Columbus, or the Buckeyes go out to Maryland and they drop a game out there. I don't know what the scenario would be, but with the way things are playing out, and if everything stays the course, if Michigan loses a game, they are out of the playoff. There's no doubt about it.
Shane Johnson with another donation. Thank you, Shane.
Hey.
Kind of a bye week on recruiting, yes, because it's an away game. That's kind of how that works. 2023 class is whatever. December's not that far away. We're going to get a real quick look at what that's shaping up like. But he mentions in 2024, the top 10 players in Michigan, and I haven't really looked at this, so I'm taking his word for it. 2 are committed to Notre Dame, 4 are committed to Michigan State, 3 are undecided. So that leaves 2 left. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with those 2. Maybe it's out, whatever, but I think it's valid. It's what we've been talking about all year. Certain guys aren't really going to love what Michigan's doing, because especially at the skill positions on offense, it's just not that attractive. I mean, winning's cool, playing quarterback and handing it off 45 times and not throwing touchdowns.
But then shouldn't you be signing like 5-star offensive linemen and 5-star running backs, and I get that stars aren't everything. I get that. But to me, those guys should be very, very interested in coming to the University of Michigan if the name of the game is winning football games and getting the ball in your hands. If you're a running back and an offensive lineman or a tight end, I can't imagine a better place in the country to go play football than the University of Michigan. So it is a little strange, but yeah, you're going to see, and somebody else just brought it up, Thomas fighting or fitting. I want to make sure I get that right. Yeah, the NIL side of it is also that's always going to play a factor until Michigan puts something out there that is significant enough to pull away guys that really don't have like an inherent interest already in Michigan and have other Now, look, I know people want to use Texas A&M as an example and say, see, look, if they're only going there for the money and they're not truly invested in the university, like you're going to see some of these things happen. And yeah, there's always going to be outliers. There's going to be Texas A&Ms, but make no mistake, high school recruits are still very much going to pay attention to what's going on with NIL. And I think Michigan could be elite in the NIL category. They're just a little bit behind the game right now compared to some of the other, Power 5 schools that are doing it really well. And they've already got something up and humming and running along.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch. I mean, Michigan is having success like they've never had before. I mean, literally, certainly not under Harbaugh. And obviously the last time they were this good, it was a completely different format than the playoff and NIL and all. I mean, it's just a completely different ball game. But the success that they've been having on the field just doesn't seem to be the same on the recruiting trail for whatever reason. I mean, you just listed several. That's going to be interesting to look at and watch as we move forward. All right, well, I think we have one more donation question, and then we'll kind of start looking at some of these other ones as we get ready to wrap up here. Sean Bennett again, appreciate you, my guy. Michigan going to Texas in 2024. Early thoughts. It's not that far away. A lot of times you see these big matchups. It's like announcing 2037. It's like, dude, those kids aren't even born yet. Like, all right, this is a season or two away, so it's a little bit more pertinent, I guess. What do you think?
No, I love it, man. I love it. I love the idea of going to play at Texas. I mean, that's obviously another big brand of football, and anytime you get two of those teams on the field together, it's always exciting. So my short answer is I like it. I'm excited for it. And I very much look forward to going to that game.
Yeah. I mean,
that'll be a bucket list item for sure.
Oh,
get down there and see the Longhorns get their ass whooped by the Wolverines on the road. Love it.
Chris Fields, did I really skip you, my guy? I promise I'm trying not to skip.
Did we skip him?
He said he did a no, because we did do that one. Anyway, all right. What did he say? He's complaining. He's telling us we got to tighten up. I'll tighten up, dude. Chris Fields, appreciate you, man. He's going broke over there. I don't know. He gives a lot of money to us for some reason. There was another maybe I just missed. There was another question. Okay, well, didn't
we see that? We talked about a one-loss Ohio State.
Maybe it was
right?
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't really pay attention to if it was a two-parter or not.
I think a one-loss Ohio State team would still make it, assuming that loss doesn't come against Michigan the final week of the season. If Michigan wins, beats Ohio State, presumably Michigan is undefeated, and I don't think a one-loss Ohio State. Again, there's a lot of football to be played, and you never know what can happen. And sure, there could be a scenario where both Michigan. I mean, I guess do you think there's a scenario where Michigan and Ohio State make the playoff this year? Or is that 0% chance?
I think it's 0, and I think the fact that Michigan is at number 5 solidifies that. They've got to win everything, or they're not gonna get in based on whatever reason. If it's the strength of schedule or whatever. And then it's going to be the same for Ohio State because their schedule is not that good either. Then they would have that loss. I think they're gonna.
What if at the end of the year there's a scenario where it's number 1 Ohio State versus number 1 or number 2 Michigan, and it's a close game, and one of those teams loses by a field goal?
Yeah,
what do you do there? Does one of those teams fall completely out of the top 4 if that's truly the 2 top teams in the country?
I think so. I think that's what would happen. I don't think they would get the love or the respect because they're the Big Ten and they're,
no respect out here in Ann Arbor.
I know.
It's egregious. Number 5. Give me a break.
Hey, how you doing? Vince Savinelli.
Hey. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Boy.
Chris.
Listen. No, they're going to cut us. They're going to cut us. Don't do that. Turn it off
for a second.
So here's the thing about Piscataway. Listen, Brandon and I have talked about this significantly over the last week, and we had every intention of getting Rosie out to Piscataway, but I think we're still a little bit snake bitten based on what happened with Iowa and then the ensuing trip to get 6 hours back out there, breaking down again. Your boys have spent a lot of time this year living on the side of a highway, and it has not been enjoyable. And so the idea of driving Rosie to Piscataway, which is, essentially a 10-hour drive, and putting that on the RV, we just, you're again, when your car breaks down, it's a relatively simple solution. You can get somebody out there to tow it, look at it, whatever. When your 30-foot RV breaks down on the side of the road, it is thousands of dollars just to get you to a place where somebody can look at it and attempt to repair it. And so we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars that we've spent just on towing and repairs this season. And for that reason, and for a couple other reasons, we're gone every weekend, don't really get to see the kids a lot. And so I'm excited to sort of stay home. I feel I've said it before, feel like I haven't really watched a football game this year, and to be able to sit back and watch the Wolverines play on TV. Long story short, the boys are going to be hanging in the state of Michigan for the game in Piscataway. And for anybody that was excited to see us out there, it might have been just 5 folks, but trust me, this was not a decision that we came to lightly. We definitely wanted to make it out there. For me personally, I wanted to photograph every single game on the schedule just to be able to say that I did that. And there were just certain factors that have come up. But yes, for anybody asking out there, listen, Rosie's first road game this year will be in Columbus.
Yeah.
It's going to be Columbus. How fitting to take the command center down to the shithole in Columbus and park it right out front, post it up, and let everybody know Rosie's here.
It's kind of crazy to think about that, but Michigan only had 4 away games. She died on the way to one. We're still getting repaired during the other one, and now we've opted not to drive 12 hours to New Jersey. So
it's a big gamble.
The first away game is going to be the last game of the season. There is some humor in that, but
love it. Absolutely.
And we talked about a couple other things. Like, look, again, I promise I'm not trying to shit on Rutgers. I actually respect them as a scrappy, feisty team. I don't dislike Greg Schiano as a coach.
Yeah.
But Michigan's favored by 26 points in this game. That's another factor. Like, if Ohio State was for some reason located in Piscataway, we said we would drive it out there. Like, it would need to be part of that equation. But it just turned out like, we kind of looked at it. The night game also didn't help. That's going to turn a 2-day trip or a day and a half trip into a 2 or 3 day trip because of the distance and because we're not going to get out of there until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Then we're talking about, all right, are we sleeping 2 or 3 nights in that thing? Are we going to get hotels, the gas money so there's a lot.
Can we do that? Can we have the National Guard deliver Rosie like via Chinook and just drop her off in Piscataway? That would be incredible.
Funny enough, that's not the first time we thought of that. When we were we got to about hour 30 on exit 19, we were like, let's call Johnson and just have him bring this shit.
Can we just get the National Guard out here to just scoop us up and take us somewhere? Like that's how desperate we were, man. We were out of answers when this thing was parked on the side of the highway. And I think we're really just trying to, because look, the reality of the situation is if we break down in Piscataway, either on the way there or on the way back, we are missing Illinois. I'm not really sure what's happening with Nebraska. And honestly, I might be living in the RV if we get to that point. I mean, it's getting to the point where, look, I love her. She's phenomenal. Absolutely love Rosie. But we're going to try to take it easier on her for the rest of the season until we figure out exactly what's going on. And under no circumstance would I be okay with her not making the trip to Columbus. That seems like it has to happen, and we're going to protect that. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that she's there.
And there will be no Ohio State fans on Rosie. Don't worry about that.
No.
That's a given.
Listen, I've tried to be kind to all of the, we had a couple Michigan State fans that stopped by and wanted to check out the bus, and we've tried. That's not happening in Columbus. You're not getting on the bus. You're not coming on.
Nah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. All right. Well, dude, I already missed the opportunity to make it to every game this year because I had freaking COVID was it the UConn game, I think.
UConn,
so I am bummed out for you because I know that It might have been around that week 2 or 3. You were talking about this bucket list of seeing every game this year, shooting them all, being on the field for all 12. So
you know what
that
it is?
a little bit,
you know what it is? Because I feel so grateful for the opportunity to like pass on it when it's there in front of me.
Right.
It feels like I'm, it's a slap in the face to the opportunity, because there's, hundreds of people, if not thousands, that would love the opportunity to go on the sideline and shoot a Michigan football game. But again, financially wanting to spend time with the family, we kept checking the boxes, and every box we were checking was leading to us staying here for the game. So we're still going to be pumping out content. I'm going to be watching the game along with you guys. I'm going to be having a couple brews.
About this too. This is probably going to be the week of the most in-depth content we'll have all season, because you're taking 20 plus hours of driving off of the table, and instead of doing that, we're going to be able to get some work done and be able to actually dive into this thing a little bit more. So
yeah,
there's some pros and cons to it. I mean, obviously we wanted to be everywhere, and Lydia throwing a big 77 on Saturday. You kidding me?
I will say this: it has been an incredible fall so far. Even here in the in the beautiful state of Michigan, we need to get that Tim Allen drop. I know we got the grunt, but we need the we don't have a pure Michigan drop, do we?
Damn it! I had it on the list.
Pure Michigan? Yeah, we don't have that drop.
I'll have it. I will have it.
Waters of Lake Michigan as the leaves turn from green to orange. Yeah, it's been a phenomenal fall. I mean, today it was like 65, 66.
That's the best I could do for you right now.
That doesn't give the pure Michigan vibe, but yeah, it's been that's incredible. 77 out there.
There's nothing more Michigan than a 1994 version of Tim Allen with the mullet and the feathered hair and the Detroit Lions sweatshirt.
I was going to say the Detroit Lions sweatshirt
from over the fence. That is Michigan, okay? That's Michigan in a nutshell.
That is Michigan. There's no doubt.
Everybody, thank you so much for the Wednesday night questions. As always, making our job incredibly easy. We just get on here and talk about whatever you guys say. We don't have to do anything. So we really appreciate that. And we will be back on Friday night for predictions, looking at the slate of college football across the country. And we're going to be doing it from home as opposed to on exit 36 somewhere in upstate New York or something. I don't know, wherever the hell we would have been stranded at. No, I mean, we do feel like Rosie's healthy now, but there's a lot that went into that decision. It wasn't lightly, as Chris said. So there you go. Everybody take care. We'll see you on Friday.
Appreciate you, Lydia.